Hi everyone, I'm here with Mark Hodges, the owner and co-event coordinator of Grand Rapids Comic Con 2014.
Hi
this
there.
This year, the event will approximately bring in a crowd of over 1,140 people. We got that number from your Facebook event page, but I'm sure that it's going to be
It's going to be a lot more than that.
Yeah.
There was only 900 on it last year.
Wow.
And I have to tell you what was there last year. So, anyway.
This year, the event has been moved to the Deltaplex in Grand Rapids after the numbers of attendees were more than expected last year. The convention has also been stretched out to 3 days that'll be filled with interesting panels, celebrity appearances, and much more. So, what are some other changes that those coming to the convention will notice?
The big thing that people are going to notice is that the size is so much different. Last year it was basically a test show. We weren't 100% sure it was going to fly in Grand Rapids, and to be honest, we had 2 comic book stores in town that told us nobody will attend this. Don't bother. I had 2 stores tell me that. No one but two different owners that both said don't bother. Obviously they weren't correct. The show was a giant hit, and so it had to be moved. Nothing against the homeschool building, but it was just too small. It was just, we couldn't stay there any longer. We rented every square inch of the Deltaplex this year. We rented both convention halls, the arena, the concourse, the ballroom upstairs, all the rock star dressing rooms in the back for ops and those kind of things. Everything was rented. So we made sure that we have as much space as humanly possible, which means we can sell as many tickets as humanly possible for fire code and all those kind of things. It's just a lot bigger of a show this year. That's basically what it boils down to. The main stage last year sat 150 people. This year it sits at 2,000. The vending room last year was about 16,000 square feet. This year it's about 42. Things like that. It's a lot of things are just a lot bigger. We generally speaking did what we wanted to do last year to an extent, but it was all on small scale. So that's the big thing I think people will notice is, holy cow, there's a lot more here than there was last year. But more or less the same kind of thing. We're still keeping an educational slant. We're still keeping it to be very PG, family-friendly oriented. A lot of that hasn't changed. It's just a lot bigger event than it was before.
About the family-oriented part, I see that I've been looking at the events for Friday, and Friday looks like the best day for families with small children to attend.
Right. I would agree with that.
There's I saw that there's a panel for how to draw SpongeBob and other cartoon characters.
Yeah.
And a costume parade. What are other activities that are family-oriented that are supposed to take place for Friday and those throughout the weekend?
I think the most interesting thing will be Justin Cohn is going to do his presentation Friday. Justin Cohn is a stop-motion animation specialist. He's one of the guys who did The Nightmare Before Christmas. He did Coraline. He did James and the Giant Peach. He did Ants. He did the Hotels.com commercials. He's done a whole ton of that kind of stuff. And he's going to do a seminar on stop-motion animation. So I think for people who want to know how those kind of films work, it'll be a neat seminar to sit in and actually listen to him talk about how these films work. Also, other family film. The big thing is the costume contest parade. Plus, we think it'll be a little thinner of a day compared to the other 2. So it'll be a good day for people who have kids with strollers and they have to go through and do their thing at the show. That's pretty much all I got on that one. That's Forrest Gump, let's say. That's all I got to say about that.
I saw the guest list for the appearances, and I gotta say that most of these people, wow, I wasn't even born for most of the stuff that they made, but I still know most of them. We have the actress who played Lieutenant Uhura from the original Star Trek.
Right.
Really amazing. There's the producer of Sharknado. You have 2 Power Rangers showing up, Karen Ashley and David Yash. Do you think you can tell us how you were able to contact some of these guests?
Basically, I get asked that all the time. How'd you get a hold of these people? And it's simple. I looked up their management, I called, and I asked. It's really about that simple as God. That's how they all start. There are specialty agencies out in the United States: Galactic Productions, Cool Water Productions, Heroes for Hire, Scarlet Abbey. Those are 4 that we work with real close. In-person productions, and there's about 15 others. that deal in convention appearance is almost exclusive. So for most of your people who do conventions, you go to them, generally speaking. And what we did is we went into their list, because of course, like any other company, they have certain products they push and certain products that they don't. Same thing with these agencies. There's certain celebrities that like to travel and do more of these things, so they really will push those specific celebrities, and other ones that are sort of sitting there that they don't, and they might book them a couple times a year. We dug through the list to try to find the stuff that we thought was the most interesting, and not necessarily what was the stuff that everybody else was doing. I mean, we had a lot of opportunity to do stuff that every show does, and I didn't see a purpose in that, because then you're just another show. We wanted to do stuff that was unique. That's why we have like Chad Rook, the Weather Wizard from The Flash. We found him buried in a list and said, we want that. And Chad was actually excited to actually do the show. Peter Shinkota was another one that was on a list that wasn't necessarily buried, but was not one of the stuff that they were heavily pushing. And I thought, yeah, this is something we want. And, Paul Bales, that's a perfect example. He's never done one of these shows before. I mean, he was at San Diego last year, but that was it. So what we did with him, because we really wanted a good film producer, but we didn't know what we wanted to have. And the night we were talking about that, Sharknado 2 was on TV. We said, let's go get the Sharknado producer. And we just called the Asylum Studios in California and just basically asked. We said, we want you to do our show, and what is it going to take? And it turned out that the co-producer, there were 3 producers in the movie, one of them was Paul Bales, his mother lives in Kalamazoo. Wow. So basically what it boiled down to for him was, I haven't seen my mom in 6 years. You're paying for my flight, you're paying for my rental car, you're paying for my food allowance, you're giving me a per diem to go see my mother and then spend a couple days at the show. It was a no-brainer for him. He's like, I want to do that. And so that worked out really well. And there's some other ones too. I mean, like some of the comic book artists, a lot of them graduated from Kendall. We got one guy who's coming in, Mark Meckes, who's coming in from Seattle, Washington. And one of the main reasons he wanted to go is, in addition to the show, he said there's a certain bar downtown that just I cannot match in Seattle, and he wants to go there and drink for a night. So there are reasons. People come for weird reasons. It's not all to come in to make money. And some of them, they come in and they make a lot of money at these things. I mean, enough to buy a nice new car in one weekend. But it's also, for a lot of them, it's various other things, and especially for the artists, a lot of them, they just wanted to come back to the area. And with Paul Bales, that worked out really well for us because he's born and raised in this area of the country, and his mother still lives in Kalamazoo. So it worked out pretty well.
Wow, that's really surprising.
So yeah, it's not as hard as you think. I mean, a lot of people think that, oh my gosh, it must have been horribly difficult. You just pick up the phone, and one of the big tricks with these things, and a lot of shows are not doing this lately, you're getting a lot of people who are doing shows now that are basically, they go to a show, they're 20 years old or something. They go to a show and they go, I can do this. And then they start doing their own show, and then they discover, no, I can't do this. And then they have a problem because they've advertised an event, even if it is minimally. They have a guest list that they can't pay. They have a building they can't pay for. And they don't think about it. They don't give it serious thought. And we've seen 2 disasters like that this year. DashCon in Chicago, which you probably have heard of if you know anything about the convention scene. And the Epic Con in Dayton, Ohio, which literally had its whole guest list, or awful close to its whole guest list, canceled the week of the event. And they advertised this giant guest list of over 40 people. Virtually every single one of them backed out in the last minute. Virtually every single one, because they didn't pay any of them. They didn't pay their plane fares then. They just thought they'd just show up. It don't work that way. I mean, we've got hordes of money out there right now, paying everybody what they've been promised, all the hotel fees, even down to things like parking their cars at the airport when they come in from, like, say, Los Angeles International Airport. They got to park their car for 3 days, and that costs money. So even things like that, we had to cover up front in order to get everybody. So when you decide to do this, when you decide to book the guests, the first thing you have to do is figure out what can you spend and what you think you can do. And then you just don't go over it. And believe me, it was hard for us this year because Awesome Con in Milwaukee canceled. And we had Jason Momoa call us, the guy who's going to be Aquaman in the Justice League film. He was Conan the Barbarian. He was a lead in Game of Thrones. This was a killer guest, and I had to say no because I didn't have the money. And I almost cried when I hung the phone up because that was rough. Because that was a great last minute addition, but it wasn't that. So we had to pass it on to, I think he's doing Wizard World in Reno, Nevada that weekend, I think. And that hurt. We also had a couple others that, Nicholas Brennan, who was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we were hoping, he got cancer in that, we were hoping to get him in. We had to turn that down. And Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, the real famous wrestler. We had a chance to get him at the last minute, but I couldn't afford it. So we had to let it go. And those hurt. But as the company grows and develops, we'll be able to do stuff like that. But right now, we're just not there. So, and I'm sure somebody's going to watch this thing and pass out when they found out that we had a chance to get Hulk Hogan, and we said no. And somebody's going to criticize me for that, and that's okay. And they can all they want because they got a point. But, and the same thing with Jason Momoa. But, you know, when the money's not there, it's not there. And unfortunately, with the way we're set up at the Deltaplex, they have to run all their tickets through a company called E-Tix. We get all that money the Wednesday after the event is over. That's just the way concerts work. And we sort of fall in the same category. So we have to come up with all the money before we get the ticket money. And that's pretty brutal. So. But we got it pretty much, we got it done now. We're going to be okay. But it's a lot of sacrifice.
Also on the guest list, you have a bunch of guest artists.
Right.
Who are some of these artists that some people out in some in the audience would be able to recognize their work, and what type of panels are they hosting, and what could somebody plan to go to the panel?
Well, some of the main ones, James O'Barr, who's the creator of the Crow franchise. They had the movie in 1994, and there's a reboot coming in 2015. Livio Ramondelli, who is a lead artist in the Transformers comics on IDW. Also, Tom Richmond, who is one of the lead artists for Mad Magazine, has been for 15 years. Chris Ambar, who's been drawing The Simpsons for a long, long time. And there's quite a few others. Ones that, you know, ranging from guys who have been around for a long time, like Tony Isabella, who's actually created characters in DC's universe, to up-and-comers like Adam and Comfort, Comfort Love and Adam Withers, and Tyler and Sarah Sowles, those people. And basically, they're doing a lot of panels on how to get published, you know, things that would be more appealing to the art community. So aspiring artists really need to go to the show and check those panels out because they'll learn a lot that weekend.
Nice. I also saw that there's a bunch of after parties set up for after the convention is done for that day. It's split up between Wealthy Theater and the Intersection. One's music and the other one's just film.
Correct.
For the music performances, did the artists know that this was going to happen during this weekend, so they chose this weekend to come here? Or?
I don't know if that's necessarily the case. The Intersection booked everything for us, and I am not honestly sure how they went about doing that, so I couldn't really give you a good answer, to be quite honest. I know we're pretty pleased with what we got because Arch Enemy is, in the extreme metal community, that's a real solid one, especially like women in that field. Saturday we got Wayland, which is the local up-and-coming rock band. They got a top 10 song out right now, so we couldn't have asked for better timing for that. And Sunday, I mean, what's more sci-fi punk rock weird than Guar? I mean, it doesn't get any stranger than Guar, so why not, you know? So that's what we pretty much decided with that one. And the Intersection proposed them, and we thought they were all great ideas. So, and you know, the after parties, you know, yeah, the show's PG. It is. I mean, PG to PG-13. It's geared toward kids. Nobody said the after parties have to be geared toward kids. I mean, there's really no reason to gear after parties at bars toward children because children shouldn't be in bars in the first place. Bars are for adults. So let the adults have their adult fun at night, and let the kids have their fun during the day. We think that's reasonable, you know, and the adults can still have fun at the show and all that, but in the evening, they can do their thing. And the reason we did the wealthy ones was really simple. You get a lot of 16, 17-year-olds that can't go to a bar because of their age. Gives them an opportunity to be able to go to something too.
Yeah, one of the things that I saw was that there's a Q&A session between films of Sharknado and Sharknado 2.
You can ask Paul whatever you want. He's willing to take whatever you want, and I think that's very brave of him. So, because there'll be people that will go up there and go, "What were you thinking?" And he's okay with that. So, because there's a complete method to the madness over at that company. There really is, and that's one thing that'd be interesting with him. Friday night, he's doing a talk at the show as the last talk on the main stage on Friday, and it's basically going to be how studios like the Asylum affect the big budget Hollywood films. That'll be interesting because there is definitely a big tie in with independent, low budget film and $200 million films. There's definitely connections.
One thing that everyone loves about conventions is the vendors hall.
Right. Usually the most popular thing.
Last year I saw a lot of businesses there, and can you give us an estimate of the size of this year's vendor hall and what local comic book stores would we find there?
Local comic book stores you're going to find there. There's a lot of local stores that are going to be there. Chronicade from Richland is going to be there. Lang Sports Muskegon. Charlie's Collector Corner from Grand Rapids. Working North from Cadillac. Not as many Grand Rapids stores as you would think. Boy, oh boy. There's a lot of comic book stores coming in from the Chicago area. There's a lot of toy dealers coming in from, we got vendors coming in as far away as Florida. So it'll be a bigger vendor room than last year in terms of space, that's for sure. So there'll be a lot more to see and a lot more to buy.
Are the two comic book stores that told you at the beginning that it wasn't going to work getting a booth there?
I don't know if I want to answer that one. I don't want to embarrass them. They're big supporters now. One of them is a big supporter now. Another one is still expecting us to fall on our face this year. I'd rather not answer that one. I don't want to embarrass the poor guy.
I'm sure this year is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, we hope so. Thank you.
I'm sure you and your team are busy this weekend, but do you think you'll be able to have a break between things they have to do and might have a chance to pop into a panel?
We've done everything we can where I can at least sit into something, but the odds are I probably won't. It's just, as a promoter, that's just life. It's the way it goes. That's why we have a film crew that's going to film a lot of it, and to be honest, I'll probably attend the show sometime in early December watching all the video. Probably that's the truth.
So if you had a robot to take your job while you could run around your convention to go to different panels,
what would I sit in?
Yeah.
I would sit in Paul Bales for sure. I would sit in Nichelle Nichols because she's doing Star Trek and the Civil Rights Movement, which she generally speaking doesn't talk about a lot of shows. But we wanted her to talk about that at this show. She was pretty thrilled that she was able to do it. The Justin Cohn thing, I've seen him do presentation stop motion animation before. It's fascinating.
So for next year, do you have any guests in mind that you hope you could be able to?
There's hordes of people that you can hope for, but basically you have to see what's available. It's all dictated by film shoot schedules and things of that nature that you just don't have any control over. So you sort of have to take what you can get and go from there. As the show grows and you develop a reputation, which we're starting to do now, then it gets easier because you get bigger names that come to you. As I've mentioned, we've had a few names that are now coming to us. I just wish they wouldn't come to us in the last week. So that's pretty much it.
All right, well, thank you, and
You're
I
very
wish
welcome,
you
man.
and your team the best of luck this weekend. I'm sure we can publish this by tomorrow, so
That's fine.
There's still a few days left to get your tickets. You can. Are they sold out at the stores that they're selling?
A lot of the stores are getting pulled tomorrow and Wednesday.
Okay.
So, well, if the weather allows. But you can always get tickets at the Deltaplex box office with advance rates right up until Thursday at 5 o'clock. You can always get them through e-tix, but of course there is service charges attached to that. And you can always buy them at the door if you desire to go that route.
All right, well, thank you.
You're very welcome. You guys have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.